Well, we're back, and this one is a super technical, super important, but also really fun discussion that we had today. It's about how to buy property with a self-managed super fund. And I think sometimes myself personally, the older you get, the more you start thinking about stuff like this. As always, we had the experts on. It's not a topic I know a lot about. So we had Leanne Tinyow from self-managed super fund Copilot. Really got down nitty-gritty technical with us and helped us understand what this is all about. We had our resident mortgage broker, Jason He, as well, the sexiest voice in property. So he was able to break it down for us as well. And of course, Savannah was with me today, our customer expert. So a really fun episode. Hope you get a lot out of it. And I hope it gets you into a mindset where you dive deeper down the rabbit hole on self-managed super funds and see if it's something that you could be using to your benefit in your property investment journeys. I'm Michael Carboni. My friends call me Carbs, and this Property Now brought to you by Coposit. Today we're talking about self-managed super funds. It's about buying property with super, which is something I'm incredibly excited about because selfishly it's something I want to do. So that's why I organised this episode of the pod, just to find out a little bit more about it. Sav, welcome back, our customer champion.
Thank you.
Good to have you back on
back
short
so quickly.
notice.
I love
on short
it.
notice as well. My voice is coming back. Last episode, we were losing it. I think hopefully I can keep it going for the next half an hour or so. We have Jason He, our resident mortgage broker, with us again, the sexiest voice in property.
Great
podcast.
to be back, guys. Did anybody miss me?
It's been a while, man.
Okay, no
it has
worries.
been a while. No, it's been a while.
Yeah.
I think because you do the little outro at the end, people think you're here every week. You know, the little hey, this is
right,
Jason He.
sure.
So,
You're here every week.
Yeah,
He
yes.
is.
In
He's here
spirit.
with us in spirit.
Yes.
By voice.
But the expert, she's got a business called SMSF Copilot. Leanne Tinyow, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Your very first podcast.
Yes, it is. So very excited and great to be here.
First of many, I think. SMSF, it's something that it probably sounds a little bit scary for a lot of property owners, property investors, and it's the kind of thing that you think, I won't do it until later. But let's give us the 101. Like, what is a self-managed super fund? How does it work? Like, what's the 101?
So self-managed super funds are essentially private super funds that are small and they only have up to 6 members.
Yep.
They're managed by those members for those members.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's essentially it.
So up to 6 or
Up to 6 people.
Okay. How would you go about setting one up, or what do you need to be able to set one up?
To set one up, it's quite simple.
Yeah.
It's basically a trust. It's a trust deed that is required to set up a super fund.
Yep.
At the very heart of self-managed super funds is superannuation is a trust.
Yep.
And so you need a trust deed. But those trust deeds have retirement conditions.
Yep.
So that's all you really need to do to set it up. That's the legal part of it.
Yep.
The next part of it is actually all the interesting bits, like setting up a bank account, then investing your money, and also arranging the rollovers and contributions into your super fund.
So everyone's paying super at the moment, right? It's something you're required to do. They normally have a big super fund like a Australian Super or one of these or what have you.
Yeah.
But I guess the idea is once you have a certain amount, is there a certain amount that you should have in your super before you start thinking about managing your own?
Great question. That's actually the number one question I get asked a lot. There is no minimum to having a self-managed super fund. The recommendation is around 250 to 300,000, and the reason for that is because just from a cost perspective, managing a self-managed super fund sort of costs around $3,000 to $4,000 a year.
Yep.
And when you translate that to the equivalent in a industry fund like an Australian super fund or a retail fund, their management fees are about 1%.
Yep.
So you need around that 300,000 to make it worthwhile for the switch.
Yeah, okay. And so that's something that you yourself would manage that, or who manages it? Someone like yourself, an accountant? Who would normally manage that for the individuals?
Okay, so in the ecosystem of self-managed super funds, the trustee, the members, they're the ones managing the investments. They make all the decisions.
Yep.
Then you have people that help you.
Yep.
So you've got financial advisors who can guide you on investments. You've got accountants, which are essential for preparing financial statements and tax returns, which are required every year.
Yep.
And then you've got your SMSF auditor,
because
SMSF accounts need to be audited every year.
Yep.
And then on top of that, you've got all your support systems like your agents, your property agents if you purchase a property, your broker if you're buying a property, and your solicitor from a property settlement point of view or purchasing point of view, as well as estate planning.
Okay, so which part of that are you? Because that's a big ecosystem.
Yeah. So you need a big team. You need a big team when you're running a super fund. I'm the accountant.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, so let's break it down, right, in real terms. My wife and I, we want to combine our super, pool our super together, create our own self-managed super fund. Maybe first step, we go speak to a broker like Jason and say, Jace, what are we going to be able to buy with this? If we're looking at a property, for example, if we're looking at shares or what have you, it's a different story, of course.
Yeah, that's right.
But we're talking property here today. So we'd go to someone like Jason first and say, hey, what could we do? What would be our opportunities here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we speak to someone like you or to an accountant and say, okay, we want to set this up. Let's go.
Yep, that's exactly it. I often tell clients, speak to someone like Jason to work out your borrowing capacity and what's your budget, because there's no point setting up a self-managed super fund and the entire structure to find out that you can't purchase that property. So it's definitely your number one step. And then you come to someone like me to set everything up. Educate yourself, learn a bit more about self-managed super funds, what's involved, and your role and your responsibility as the member and trustee.
Okay, I have more questions, but I'm going to go back to JC quickly because that's where it should start, right? Let's speak to the broker. Let's speak to the
that's
advisor.
if you already know that.
If you know
what you want to do is property.
Okay, yeah,
right. Because there are lots of people that want to set up a self-managed super fund or take control of their super. But it doesn't necessarily mean by default they want to buy property, right? So sometimes we actually say to clients that, if you're not so sure that property is what you want, speaking to a financial planner or advisor, that is knowledgeable and has expertise in self-managed super fund is also important, right? Like what Leanne talked about is that you have to understand, is this a better option for you? To get you closer to your objectives or your retirement goals. So it's not necessarily, self-managed super fund with property is the best option. Right, so that's sometimes a first step as well. But if you know you want to do property, you have a passion about property, you know property really well, then definitely speak to a mortgage broker first. A lot of people don't speak to a mortgage broker first, right? They start inquiring about how do I set it up? What do I need to do? How much does it cost, without knowing how much they can actually borrow, how much deposit they actually need. And it's not necessarily saying that you have to have 300,000 because you might buy something cheaper. Right, but at least after speaking to someone like us as a mortgage broker that does SMSF lending, we can tell you if you want to buy this purchase price, this is how much you can borrow and this is how much deposit you need. So you're very clear. Okay, great. This is feasible strategy. Then it's best to speak to someone like Leanne to do the setup and the execution, to understand, to make sure that it's all set up correctly, it's compliant, right? And then you can go ahead.
It's a good point. Is it right for you? Because at the moment, everyone's paying super. You get 12% now as of new financial year, right? 12% of your income. Your employer pays to your super account, your nominated super account. So that's building up. Hopefully, you're earning. You're probably earning. What is it normally on average? Like, is it a 5, 6, 7% return per year, or is that what's expected from a normal super account? Is there any? Do we know that?
It really depends.
Really depends on which super account.
Yeah, that's right.
So, but some people add a little bit more. For some people, that's fine. They'll keep doing that for the rest of their working lives, and they will hopefully get to a good amount. But for others that want to sort of take advantage, it's very attractive for someone that goes, I think I could probably earn a little bit more investing in shares myself or investing in property or something like that. If you have made the decision, hey, I want to set it up, I want to buy property, they come and speak to you. How does a mortgage inside an SMSF differ to one personally?
Okay, so the main difference is how the borrowing capacity is calculated. So a good way to look at it is you can imagine the SMSF is like a person, right?
Yeah.
But that person doesn't have any kids, doesn't have any HEX debt.
Oh, wow.
Doesn't have any credit cards.
Wow.
Right. Doesn't have living expenses, other than, for example, the ongoing cost of returns and all that, right? And then the banks look at the borrowing capacity based on income versus expenses. So similar to if you were getting a home loan yourself, except it's a lot more simpler because there isn't as many expenses. And usually if you're setting up brand new, you don't have any liabilities. It means that the SMSF person doesn't have any debts.
Wow.
Right. So then you just look at, for example, like you said, it's 12%. So if you think about in a self-managed super fund, if you set up with your wife, where's the income coming from?
Yeah.
The income is coming from your employer contributions, your super guarantee, which is 12% of your salary by default.
Yep.
Right. Or you could increase that if you want a salary sacrifice.
Yep.
And the other part of income is coming from the property, the rental income. So if you buy an established property, whether that's residential, whether that's commercial, there's rental income from that.
And so how do you that's obviously a guess at first, because you're not going to know what you're buying exactly.
Correct,
so you don't
correct.
know
So you would estimate it the same way that if you were going to buy an investment property in your personal name,
Yep.
we would estimate that as well. So if you're looking at buying a $500,000 property in regional New South Wales, for example, you kind of look at what's the estimated rent.
Yeah,
right.
okay.
But the calculations are usually not so tight that
Yep.
you got to get the estimation correct.
Yep.
Right. So ballpark is enough. So then the bank looks at, okay, that's the income coming in. They look at, okay, based on, so the assessment rules apply as well. So it's not going to be assessed on how much you can borrow based on the actual rate of the loan you're going to get.
Yep.
So they're going to add a buffer onto that.
Yep.
Right. So they look at, okay, great. So you can demonstrate you can afford this loan, and that works out your borrowing capacity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems much less complex. So what have you got there at the moment? What's coming in?
That's right.
And from your contributions perspective, and then what will potentially be coming in from a rental perspective.
That's
as well.
right. And we've actually seen the process improve to make it easier for borrowers, because in the past, a few years ago, they used to look at what your last 2 years' contributions were. Because people go into different jobs, right? So
Yeah.
2 years ago, you might be earning $90,000.
Yep.
But today, you're earning $120,000.
Yep.
So the amount of super going in is different.
Yep.
Right, so they used to look at, okay, over the last 2 years, how much did you contribute
Yep.
as a historical thing, and they work out either the average or take the lower of the two. But now a lot of the banks are adopting, what's your salary? So they look at your payslip. Oh, great, you're on $100,000 a year. So 12% of that is 12,000.
So they're looking forward instead of back.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that makes it easier for people.
That's interesting, because I would assume that a lot of people that have, many people that do this would be business owners, and they're probably buying their business premises in the super fund. And so business owners don't always pay themselves super, right? Small business owners in particular. So
Yeah.
maybe they might want to start doing that for the purpose of something like this. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, and a lot of business owners, what they can do is, if the bank's looking at the last 2 years, is that the last 2 financial years could be you make a contribution on the 29th of June,
Yep.
and then you make another contribution on the 1st of July, right? So that's 2 financial years
Okay.
when you think about it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So there is planning. It's not kind of working the system or anything. That's just how it is. Yeah.
So my question would be, so besides business owners, who
Yeah.
would this be a suitable solution for?
Yeah, great. Yeah, so business owner is definitely a big one, because it's the only situation, right, Leanne, where you can use the actual property, right, for your business.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So with property inside self-managed super funds, you actually prohibited from leasing it to a related party or relative
Okay.
to your self-managed super fund, with the exception of business real property being your business premises. And it's one of the greatest strategies inside self-managed super funds, where you can buy the property inside your self-managed super fund, lease it back to your business, pay yourself rent,
Yeah.
and rather than leaking that rent out to a third party.
Yeah, so your rent becomes a contributor to your...
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah. So
Mind blown.
that's exactly right. So that's the main one. But it doesn't mean like most people doing self-managed super fund and buying property are doing that.
Yeah.
Right. So other people who are doing it they're limited in their personal names to continue to build their property portfolio.
Yep.
Because borrowing capacity is a real issue at the moment, right?
Yep.
So some people, they buy 2-3 properties as investments, and
Yep.
they're capped out. So they can't get any more borrowing capacity unless they get a significant increase in their salaries.
Yep.
Right. So that doesn't happen easily.
So this is a way to do that again.
Yeah. So if the person is really pro-property and they really know property well, they want to take charge, then they would use their self-managed super fund. Now, another one is that the self-managed super fund has a big balance there. Right. So, for example, that's why some people look at buying commercial property, because typically commercial property has a slightly higher deposit requirement. Right. Sometimes 30%, or most of the time 20%. You can't get the 5% deposit for a commercial. So they look at, okay, well, I don't have 20% in my personal bank account, but I've got 20% equivalent in my super fund. If I combine it with my partner or what else.
Yeah, gotcha.
So now I can actually become eligible to buy property in super. So that's another reason they look at it. Or another reason they look at it is they want to use it as a really tax effective vehicle.
Yep.
Because, the one big benefit of super is the tax efficiency.
Yeah.
Right. So incoming super is only taxed at 15%.
You're a professional.
Right. No, because I've known Leanne for a long time. It just rub off Leanne with all the knowledge.
Basically, when it comes to self-managed super funds, the world's your oyster when it comes to investing. So you can invest in all types of property.
Yeah.
Even if it's land, industrial, retail, residential, but there's just limitations around how you use it and how you fund it.
Okay, like what? Can you talk us through some of those limitations?
So if you are borrowing to purchase this property, there are limitations on the type of property that you purchase. So there's the terminology of single acquirable asset if you are borrowing to purchase this property. So you can't, for example, one popular scenario is if you buy an off-the-plan property, residential, and you've got a unit and a car space and they're on separate titles.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's not, and those titles can be dealt with separately.
Yep.
From a lending point of view, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, that doesn't really work because it's not single acquirable. So you have to get either a loan for two properties because they're two separate titles, or you may need to pay one just with cash.
Yep. My wife had a question, Leanne, that she wanted me to ask you. Could someone buy a beachside residential property, Airbnb it for the duration of, our working lives, and when we retire, use it as a holiday home or retire there? Could you then use that afterwards? So you can't live in it now. Could you do it afterwards?
It depends.
Yeah.
That's the SMSF go-to answer. So if it stays inside your self-managed super fund, that beach house up the coast, then no, you can't use it because it's still within your super
even
fund.
After you retire.
So we'd have to sell it to ourselves or
I've
something
only
like
found
that.
that out recently.
Oh, wow.
And that's what's so important.
She's going to be so disappointed to hear that answer.
But you
She can buy it and then you can buy it of her.
Yeah.
You can then sell it to yourself or transfer it out.
Okay.
You do get hit with stamp duty on the way out. So it is possible.
Yeah.
If you think of it this way, it could be that you're locking in today's prices for
So really the only
the future.
disadvantage is paying stamp duty, right?
Yeah, because when you retire, earnings that support your retirement income. So when you retire, you tend to start a pension and start drawing down on your super.
Yep.
Any assets or earnings supporting your pension up to a certain limit is actually tax-free.
Okay.
So you do away with the 15% tax inside super, and it's pretty attractive once you retire.
Tina, the beach house is going to have to be a different plan. Let's talk about then. So I'm really interested in the difference with residential versus commercial, and why is one more attractive than the other? I'm assuming from a loan perspective, you will need a higher deposit initially for the commercial.
Really depends, right? So most of the residential you only need a 20% deposit.
Yep.
Right. So typically there's no LMI. Look, there's some lenders that will do these, low deposit options.
Yep.
But if we're talking, mainstream, the most common ones, you're looking at 20% deposit.
Yep.
Right. With the commercial, there's also ones for 20% deposit. So with commercial, it comes down to the type of commercial property. How specialized is it?
Yep.
Right. So and that's no different to if you're buying commercial under your personal
own name. Yeah.
It's the same policy. So if you're buying a commercial property where only a particular type of business can use it, right? So how much the bank will lend you will be reduced, right? Because they want a bigger deposit. So rather than lending you 80%, they only want to lend you 70%. Like if you're buying a petrol station, if you're buying something really specialized. But if you're buying industrial warehouses, for example, if you're buying an office, typically you can borrow up to 80%. So you just got to come up with a 20% plus the stamp duty.
So anyone can use it. It's a bit more lenient, but if it's very
That's
specialized.
Right. That's right.
Medical centers or something like that.
Well, it depends on the property, right? Like with the medical centers, just perhaps the fit out.
Yeah, okay.
Right. So just because the current fit out is a medical center doesn't mean that someone else can't move in if you rip out the fit out.
Gotcha.
But for example, storage units is a good example.
Yeah.
Storage units are very specific.
Yeah.
Right. Who's going to use it, what you can do with it has regulations. So those you're typically seeing 50%, for example. So you need a bigger deposit. But the good thing is storage units are cheaper.
Much cheaper. You
Yeah,
could probably buy the whole.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So you can't assume that's always 80%.
Yeah.
But the general rule of thumb is the more specialized it is, the bank wants you to put more hurt money into the transaction.
Do you have a view on what's better? What type of asset is better in super? It depends.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily super, right? Because it's more the argument residential versus commercial, whether it's inside super, whether it's outside super, right? And it depends on where you are at. So, for example, someone might have 3 residential properties already.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of capital growth. They've got a lot of equity, but the rental return is pretty low.
Yeah.
Right. So the property is worth, let's say, $1.5 million, but it's rented out for $750 a week.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah.
Whereas if you had a commercial property worth $1.5 million, generally the rent is much higher.
Okay.
Right. And also it comes down to the long-term nature of the tenant. So with a commercial property, tenant usually sign on for 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Right. There's more stability. Yes, the con is that it takes longer to find a tenant.
Yeah.
But you're not having people sign on 1 year, 12-month leases or 6-month leases.
Yeah,
right?
so resi is usually a 12-month lease, whereas commercial might be 3+3 or 5+5 or something like that.
And the business typically prefers to stay. If the business is trading well, it meets their needs, they don't want to move. Right? And also with commercial, often the arrangement with the lease is that the tenant pays for the additional outgoings. So even council rate, land tax, water, electricity. So the rent you're receiving is like a net rent.
Yep.
So if it's $50,000 a year net, the tenant pays for everything else. You're getting $50,000. Whereas a residential, you might get $35,000, but you got to take away the repairs, the maintenance, the water, the council rate, the land tax, and property management fees. So all of those ongoing expenses, you can actually package up into a commercial lease, and the tenant for that commercial property knows, okay, that's my rent, and then that's my additional outgoings. So that's the difference.
We get a lot of people, Coposit, asking us if they can use an SMSF, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it'd be good to actually talk about like how Coposit, if you could combine that with SMSFs. We do have a few people that have already purchased as an investment. I think that seems to be the only option, really, not first-time buyers.
Yeah, of course,
so
you can't live in it. Yeah.
But it'd be good to talk through like how that would work in conjunction with Coposit.
So if someone's using Coposit, they want to use their SMSF, they're buying off the plan, it's an investment. How would that be any different? I guess they're looking at, are they able to look at future returns with something like that, or is it something that you wouldn't be able to sort out until the end? How would that
right. So you're more talking about, what is the future rental income on that
property? Well, we do have
property?
Coposit buyers that are using SMSF.
So when you're buying off the plan, there's no existing lease in place, right?
Yeah.
So what some banks accept is they look at a valuation. So the bank will contract a valuer to do a valuation on the property when it's nearly ready.
Yeah.
And the valuer would determine what is the market rent for that particular property. So no different to if you're buying a residential property off the plan.
Yeah.
Right. So the valuer, when they do the valuation, they'll look at what similar types of properties are rented out in the market around the area, and then determine, say, that's $700 a week.
Yeah, cool.
Right.
And so, Leanne, if someone went ahead with this, they wanted to do, have their own SMSF, or that, a group wanted to do this, would you still have your personal, so if I've got an Australian super account that, is getting paid into quarterly, do I still have that account with some money in there and I open up a separate SMSF, or do I completely forego the individual account? How does that work? Because it's almost,
You can have as many super funds as you like.
Okay.
So you don't have to close down your existing fund in order to have your self-managed super fund. You can run two.
Yep.
Just be mindful of fees.
Yep.
It's actually quite a popular strategy, having maintaining a retail or industry fund. As well as a self-managed super fund. And a lot of people do that because of life insurance.
Yes.
So this is where a financial advisor can help you, help decide that. When you sort of transfer your super from a retail or industry fund into a self-managed super fund and close it, you may lose your insurance. And if you've been working for a while, you're probably a little older and you may have some pre-existing conditions, and getting insurance or replacement insurance after you've lost it, it can be really expensive or really difficult. Yeah. So you may want to, so whenever I speak to someone about setting up a super fund, yes, borrowing capacity, yes, teach them about all the intricacies of maintaining a super fund, but the other factor is review your life insurances and your estate planning before you go into your self-managed super fund, because you are creating a new entity with a lot of assets and you're going to build it, and you don't want to lose something that you have currently that you may need.
And so you're building up these assets, right? There's a lot of people hearing about the super tax, right, that has been introduced as that 3 million cap, and post that point, I don't know if you want to explain that a little bit, Jace.
I only know generally, probably Leanne's the best one. But the one thing that surprised me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Leanne, is that 3 million. So you're getting taxed if your super's over 3 million, is individual, right? So if it's a couple, it's 3 million each.
Yes.
Is that right?
That.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's a lot, right? Probably I don't have that problem to worry about.
Not yet. Not yet.
Because
But one of the things that you forget is that if, as a couple, say you have 1.6 each, yes, you're under 3 million, but if one of you passes away and you nominate your spouse to receive all your benefits and sort of it stays within super, you all of a sudden have $3 million, over 3 million. So even though as a couple you're separately less than 3 million, in the event, touch wood, but in the event one passes away, you end up being over 3 million easily.
Yeah, we're getting some inquiries from people who do have a big balance.
Yep.
And they are quite worried about how they will actually pay that, because that thing kicked in yesterday, right?
Yes.
What
officially kicked in yesterday, where you're getting, sorry?
What is it?
Oh.
So it's a tax that is levied on people with large balances, or they think $3 million is a large balance inside super. So it's a extra 15% on earnings that are, it's such a difficult tax to explain. It's earnings in proportion to the amount that's above 3 million. So if you've got 4 million, it's that 1 million that above that. So that 1 million above 3 million. And the earnings associated with that, that's going to be an extra tax. And that tax is levied on you personally.
Okay.
So it's similar to a Div 296, which is a contribution tax for high income earners. So did I say Div 293? Yeah. So it's a tax that is levied on you personally, but you can then nominate your super fund to pay for it.
Your super fund can pay that tax. It's almost like brackets, right, in earning, I guess.
But I think the main problem, Sav, is that like people have like these assets in property or whatever, but they don't have the cash. So all of a sudden they have this new tax bill that they've got to pay, but they haven't sold anything, right? So where's the cash going to come from?
Been a lot of conjecture around it.
Yeah, right. Like how are they going to pay for it? You know, so are they going to have to sell something to pay for it? Right. Because out of their retirement cash flow, they don't have that extra money all of a sudden for 15% that they never needed to pay, but they got to pay now. Yeah, so that's the main issue. right? But from the government perspective, it's more like, we're targeting how many % of the country, or I don't know, the top whatever % of the country. So it shouldn't affect most people.
Yeah.
But I think the views, are different. Like Leanne, for example, was saying, 1.6, 1.5 or 3 million. It's not that much if you fast forward the next, say, 20, 30 years or whatever.
It's interesting in a short-term view. I think in a longer-term view, like 3 million, when you look at inflation and things like that, 3 million could be quite achievable for the average Australian. I think when like a 20-year-old today, by the time they retire. So it's going to be interesting to see
we'll need that.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see the effects long term.
Well, that's like someone buying a house in Carlingford
Yeah.
for 500,000, I don't know, 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now that house is like 2.5 million or 3 million, right?
Yeah.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So if they did that in super, have a bit of a problem now.
So that 3 million isn't indexed.
Yeah.
And they've done some modelling. Like you said, a 20-year-old starting a job now with 12% super guarantee, with earnings, with inflation, that compounding effect, easily meets 3 million by the time that they retire. Easily.
So not indexed. Are they talking about indexing it potentially or no?
The Treasurer says no.
Oh.
For now.
For now.
Yeah, he's been pretty firm on that.
Wow, that's crazy.
All right, we're getting very philosophical now. So let's take it back. Leanne, if anyone is interested, they feel like they've got a certain amount, they want to get a bit more sophisticated, they want to get started with something like this, how would they reach out to you?
So you can reach out through my website, smsfcopilot.com.au.
Nice.
And book in a chat. I love chatting about super, as you can tell.
Yeah.
And for me, it's about educating you before you even go too deep into setting up your super fund.
Yep.
Learning about what's involved, how to set it up, and your obligations as the trustee. You don't want to fall foul of the rules. As much as I can guide you,
Yep.
You are, at the end of the day, responsible.
Yeah. So a bit of research in place, and hopefully podcasts like this can help people get started on that journey. They can speak to people like Jace, He-Man, sexiest voice in
100%.
podcasting.
100%. Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely. Or you can speak to me first and I can send you to Leanne too.
Done.
Yeah. But I just want to add a point that Leanne just mentioned with the statistics that a 20-year-old on 12% can end up with 3 million. Just kind of think about that, guys.
Yeah.
So like as soon as you start working, super is quite important.
Get started. Very
right?
important.
Like
that's a huge point.
That's a pretty good statistic.
Yeah.
Like I know you mentioned it, in contrast to the tax, but people don't realize that if you do the right things, over time, you might not have to make any, special moves, and you can still have $3 million in super.
I love that, and a good snippet for a reel potentially, PJ. So let's end on a high. What a great chat. Love getting the experts in on a topic that I know very little about, so I feel a little bit more educated. Love having you guys. Thanks for joining us, Leanne. Jace, always a pleasure to see you.
I hope I can come back. Thanks.
You'll be back, Sav. You'll be back, and I'll be back, and hopefully you'll be back as well. We'll see you next time. Property Now. Take care.
This is Jason He, the sexiest voice in property, here to tell you that the Property Now podcast offers opinions on Australian property news for informational and entertainment purposes only, and general in nature. It does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. It does not constitute professional advice. Always seek expert guidance before making any property-related decisions.